Matt Reeves' The Batman is one of the most interesting films to come out this year. And one of the main reasons for that for me was the music and the world building. Now, it's pretty standard in a movie and in film music to use music to generate affect or to intensify affect, make the audience feel something in the same way that your characters or your plot makes them feel things. It's also super common in film music to use something called leitmotifs to signify plot points or characters or themes that you want to keep bringing back and keep reminding the audience of. I'm not going to retread all those steps. The Batman's score does both of those things multiple times over, a million times. And I'm sure there will be 400,000 YouTube videos about why all these cool leitmotifs mean stuff. The reason why the music captivated me so much is because actually the film presents a really interesting challenge to a composer. Batman has been and will always be two people, Bruce Wayne and Batman. In this film, for perhaps the first time ever in Batman's cinematic history, those two people are very different people. One theme will not fit both. So we're going to break down the track The Batman by Michael Giacchino from the film The Batman by Matt Reeves. And I'd actually call it a kind of suite of themes, and stick around to the end, you'll find out why I think so. But it's a really awesome track, and if you haven't had a listen, go listen now, come back, let's talk about it. I'll play you a few clips, and I will be playing it on the piano as well, just so that you can get a kind of gist of what I'm saying. But let's, without any further ado, let's have a little listen to the immediate thing that comes out in the track. Okay, already in 8 seconds, this track is one of the best Batman tracks for a long time. Here you go. Let me break it down over on the piano. So the track opens immediately with a really dark and moody motif. And actually, this is a super simple motif. And the fact that this is used so elegantly and eloquently throughout the whole film is a real tribute to Michael Giacchino's skill as a composer. He's turned this really easy motif of just 2 notes into the theme of the Batman. And actually, what's really interesting here is that it's the theme of the Batman we know already. It's actually worth noting as well that the foundations of this riff come from Something in the Way by Nirvana, which is actually used in the film multiple times. So there you go. Now, this actual move is super common, and actually it symbolizes a lot without actually saying much at all by itself. You know, it's 2 notes, or 4 if you count the octaves. So this very early on in the film, I'm talking first 10-15 minutes of the film, cements itself as the Batman theme. We see a montage of really awesome moments where the Batman kind of talks about how he sits in the shadows and watches, and we have all these shots of just empty space in the shadows being accompanied by Michael Giacchino going... Very early in the film, the Batman uses a phrase which is picked up as almost a catchphrase and used multiple times throughout the film, where instead of saying, "I'm Batman," he says, "I am vengeance," okay? I almost think this is the thunder of vengeance in the film. It's Batman acting out of vengeance, and it's Batman acting brutish out of vengeance. And actually, this big epic vengeance theme comes back at the end of this 6-minute track to show you the real thunderous vengeance that I'm talking about. What starts as a very kind of low and dark, moody tone underneath played on the piano becomes a roaring thunder of vengeance that overtakes Batman. It's so big and loud and brassy and kind of, as I say, the idea is that it's a complete assault on the listener. You hear it and you think, oh, fat. And that is because Batman is feeling vengeance. Vengeance takes over his body in that moment when that theme plays. There's even a bit where the whole theme of vengeance and I am vengeance gets flipped on its head. There's a whole point about how being vengeance isn't the way that Batman should be acting. And I think the theme, without even playing you the rest of the theme, does that. I think that's clearly a very messed up individual acting very messed uply. If it was cut against anything other than the Batman who we usually respect, you would think, God, that's a villain's theme. And boom, that is the reason why I think the Batman has a really interesting soundtrack, because it is a villain's theme. It literally is. It's literally the biggest villain theme ever in any film. And I think that's a really important point, because the Batman we know and the Batman we meet at the very start of the film is not the Batman he should be. And actually, the Batman he should be makes an appearance in this theme too. We hit a point about 20 seconds into the track with a symbolized by a nice chime. Where we leave that Batman behind, and actually a really frail and vulnerable Batman steps forwards into the light. Led by only strings. This is not a Batman at all. You don't have the brass, you don't have the roaring heroicness. This is a very, very vulnerable character. This part of the track is actually a really, really famous and almost overused kind of cliche chord progression, but I don't think this is a kind of lazy move by Giacchino at all. I think it's actually used in a really interesting way. So the chord progression is a minor sixth, down to a 4, down to the 1, and then in any other song, it would then come to the 5 for the nice happy ending. Now, Batman isn't about happy endings. So this loop actually goes from the 6th to the 4th to the 1 and then up to the 3rd. And so it has that awesome, like, kind of unresolved, kind of yearning to be more, but never quite reaching that happy ending. And actually this is really, really nicely signifies Batman, because you have this otherwise lovely and familiar chord progression. It hits you with that element of like nostalgia almost.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny.
And so you have this nostalgia that is cut off by this kind of gruff kind of, we're still there, we're still working towards it to head back to. In the track, you have this kind of really nice that kind of melody that's trying to reach up, and it even goes again. Really reaches, and there's some kind of like brassy kind of accompaniment as it tries to reach as high as it can go and be nice climactic triumphant piece, but it's always undercut by that tragic return. And that's kind of what happens to Batman throughout the whole movie. Like, not to spoil anything or not to spoil too much, but that is absolutely what happens to Batman. He there's a love interest. He kind of falls for Catwoman, and he kind of, by the end of the film, it's about him having to choose the life that he wants to live. Does he want to be this perfect, crime stopper, or does he want to actually help people and do his best? And that's kind of what the whole movie's about. Your titular character, who is someone who is so iconic and hard to kind of, you have to write the right thing And what Giacchino's done is he's gone, fuck it, I'll do it twice. I'll write two. And in writing two themes, he's got the dichotomy of this iteration of Batman absolutely nailed. He has this like brassy, roaring vengeance cut next to this really slow and intimate look at this character. And he reaches this kind of mellow, bitter sweetness a few times as well. And it always comes back to the vengeance. It is no accident that Giacchino actually highlights this with tubular bells, or the chimes. Every single time he comes back with that chime and that heavy bass, that is a funeral. That's what he's doing there. He's evoking the funeral. He's evoking the loss that Bruce Wayne has felt throughout his life. And actually in this film more than ever, the loss is so core and prominent to everything Batman feels throughout the film. In other Batman iterations, the loss of his parents are the reason why he's here. But in this Batman, it is central to what happens in the film. And I think that's amazing that Giacchino has kind of ingrained that in what we think of Batman through the music. Another little piece of instrumentation that I want to highlight here is this amazing piece where the brass kind of swells and builds up and gives you a piece of Batman. It's got that yearning to be more, yearning to be bigger, and actually the whole orchestra is here. Like, it cannot get any better than this. It cannot get any bigger. And yet it still feels like it wants to move towards that vengeance still. I don't know how to describe it. It's just a really lovely piece. And there's even a tiny little piece here where we kind of get like a fanfare come in, where the kind of horns and trumpets kind of come in with this fanfare. And that kind of fanfare piece obviously symbolizes a hero. Of course, we all know that kind of language from a billion other films, but there's an actual piece in The Batman where we meet Thomas Wayne and he speaks like a hero trying to get votes in his mayoral election campaign. And we hear a fanfare so painfully similar to this that you kind of, it symbolizes Batman's like daddy issues. It symbolizes Batman trying to be or live up to the Wayne family title. I think that's like a really genius way of bringing that in. And another very classy touch, just to close it out, is the last few seconds where Giacchino just kind of throws in the towel, a little bit like Batman might. We kind of reach the end. And we get this swell where we think, oh, is it going to happen again? We're going to go around again? We get this horrible dissonant chord right at the end. This symbolizes kind of just how broken he is. And I think that's awesome. I think, you know, the film itself is stunning. And I think the music has done such a great job in kind of bringing that traditional filmmaking-y thing of using film music to show themes and breaking it apart. And actually, like, the two themes are at odds with each other throughout the entire film. And I just think that's super awesome. So Michael Giacchino did an amazing job this time around. And if you want to hear more of my takes on Batman, then you can check it out in my podcast, our feature presentation that I do with my friend George. It's available to listen to right up there above my head. Make sure you click, make sure you watch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did like it, let me know in the comments, because this is kind of a new type of video for me. And I had fun making it. And I obviously loved watching Batman for this. So yeah, let me know and I'll happily make more of them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.